Hey, what's shaking, Warfighter Nation? Ron here with Warfighter Ranch and Isaiah 6'8". This is the next in our series of shorts for our Ramadi bros. This one is called University of War. There was but one institution throughout the history of mankind, a singleton, capable of offering a tangibly supernatural experience and education through every excruciatingly purposeful yet attentive moment of study. Attending this prestigious institution requires a depth and breadth of commitment that less than 1% of our nation has ever imagined. Many will try, but not all are eligible. All will give some, and some will give all. Not all will be called to greatness. However, each one has freely pledged their very lives to one another. Lessons learned are both practical and life-saving. They culminate from over 2.5 centuries of history and intense study and scrutiny of and by generation upon generation of warriors, patriots, and statesmen, each fervently and unapologetically devout in their faith to God unto their last breath. Elite professors are learned in their fields and subject matter experts in their skill and craft, all of which are prerequisites for completion. Even with doctrinal knowledge and real-world experience, you will need to survive. They do not have the final say over whether or not you make the cut. Our Creator alone holds that answer in alignment with His plan and according to His divine will. From the depths of the warfighter's heart, he knows this ultimately to be true. There, the pupil readies the body, mind, and heart through a virtual gauntlet of spiritual, emotional, and enduring fire, impurities dissipating through each encounter, each evolution, each engagement, each extreme, often within milliseconds of each other, and a virtual lifetime betwixt the two. Irony fills the mind as the learned elders mold each new progeny through immediate, firm, and humbling correction, creating perspective and expertise unlike anywhere else in the world. The disciple of the art of spiritual warfare lets go of all things inconsequential and meaningless. Apprenticeship requires self-sacrifice, discipline, and desire to become a better version of oneself with each passing moment. The final examination will not be revealed indoors on a piece of paper, but in a classroom with unparalleled scrutiny and the unyielding elements of nature that not only could change the direction of momentum, but swallow entire cities at will and break engagement after engagement. The will of man changes the landscape of a nation. And when the dust settles and that familiar silhouette walks through the blurred horizon, struggling to take form in the unrelenting fog of war, there comes a still voice. This voice will come to serve as a beacon of hope and the sound of redemption. It is your countryman, your brother. Unspeakable joy pours out over all your heart like a deluge, and suddenly you realize that somehow your life is intact. You breathe deeply again, and it feels like the first time. When you come home, and as the years pass by, God willing, it will become unmistakably clear to you the true magnitude of your blessing. All you have to do is open your eyes, look around, and you will know. Aging is a privilege not afforded to all. This path requires complete submission to one all-knowing and omnipotent teacher above all others, while knowing all the while that his grace is sufficient, regardless of any burden to be endured, injustice is suffered, or full measure given. Years after the final shot is fired and you doff your uniform for the last time, one morning, God willing, years between these moments, and watching the sunrise, you will not wonder whether or not your life made a difference. And finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over the present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand firm. Stand therefore, having fastened on the belt of truth, and having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and as their shoes for your feet, having put on the readiness given by the gospel of peace. In all circumstances, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish any flaming darts from the evil one, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, and at all times in the Spirit, with all prayer and supplication. To that end, keep alert with all perseverance, making supplication for all the saints, and also for me, that words may be given to me, and opening my mouth boldly to proclaim the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains, that I may declare it boldly as I ought to speak. After what seems a lifetime of study and a nearly spiritual devotion to the craft, at the setting of my last sun, I long to hear those holy and eternal words, "Well done, my good and faithful one." What entity could foster such depth of devotion? Love. So that's it for this time. You've got your spiritual chow. Pass it on to the next troop. Next mission, time now. Love you guys. Your Mighty Bros for life.